We're back, and we're going to still stick with the topic of hockey and about a player that should have retired for one team, but instead kept wanting to play. In that case was Marty Brodeur, now with the St. Louis Blues. Didn't look bad, and he came in a relief role, did pretty well, started last night, won. So you look at what he's done, the team he has. Can Marty Brodeur have success in St. Louis?
He's still going to be a good goalie. It doesn't, he has all that experience behind him. I don't think they paid a lot for him. It was $700,000, I think, for the season. They're going to get all the miles out of him they can. He could be a leadership goalie for that team.
Yeah, they have some young goalies there.
With Allen and
yeah. So and what a better team to play for than a team that's coached by Ken Hitchcock. Come on,
right?
And they take care of their own end first and worry about the offensive end later. So if you have a team that's going to play that solid defense in front of you, Marty Brodeur's not a dumb guy. He's been around for a long time, so he's going to pick the right spot for him. And I think he did in St. Louis. But it's still 21 years with the Devils, and then now him playing in St. Louis. It's even Ray Bourque leaving Boston to go to Colorado. I know he won a cup there and all that, but I don't think of Ray Bourque as an Avalanche. I think of Ray Bourque as a Bruin, and I always think as Marty Brodeur as a Devil.
All right, we'll move on to George Cortez, a guy who's worn many hats, offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, head coach for a year. Came to Saskatchewan in 2013 to help revamp that offense, won a Grey Cup. 14, things looked promising a little bit, but it seems like there were a few chinks in the armor. And then you got down to the season with no Darian Durant, the refusal to change. He was out the door. Earlier today, we also heard about another guy, defensive coordinator, out the door in Richie Hall. You look at these changes, and we'll talk about Cortez in particular. You look at these changes, how much of it was his fault for the team's lack of success this season?
Well, it's all on him. I mean, when things are going good, you're a saint, and when it doesn't, you're a chump. I mean, that's just how it's going to be. He did a decent job in Saskatchewan. I don't think a year was long enough, not even close. I think they should have kept him.
But do you think that injuries played a big part in this?
Oh, for sure.
Did he actually, I guess, is the one to blame for not trying to work around certain systems and just saying, you know what, if this worked for Darian, it's going to work for you. Stick with it, and that's it. Like, who's to blame in that aspect?
It's pretty hard for us to say what was going on the field, in the dressing room, when George was calling up the plays and calling up what their game plan was in any given game. But some of the stories you're hearing is that George has basically 5 plays in his handbook, and it's the same 5 plays. And he doesn't really change things up. And I'm sorry, but the old book on George and Regina, that he's a grumpy old man and that he doesn't take well to change, and I think I'm kind of the same way. But I think that's more for George, is that he's a grumpy guy that doesn't like change, didn't go to the change once he lost DD, and it kind of went forward like that. And you could see it in games where they didn't change things. They didn't change things at halftime. It wasn't working in the first half, wasn't working in the second half.
Outside, of course, with the recent news that involved Richie Hall, I was going to ask you guys if Cortez was the only one out. Apparently not. Will there be more changes? I guess is a new question for you. Will there be more changes with the Saskatchewan Roughriders coaching staff?
Oh, for sure there will. I mean, a season like they had, they're coming off a winning season. You win a Grey Cup, and then you kind of tank. The next season, there's a lot of eyebrows raised, a lot of finger pointing. It's going to come out of there. I think more are going to go.
I think special teams. There was a lot of concerns about special teams, the touchdowns they gave up, the kicking game, all that. So, and there are questions around defense. Richie's now gone. Questions around offense. So I think you're going to see a lot of changes, both in the coaching staff. They have a ton of free agents they got to sign. So they got a busy next couple of months.
All right, we'll move on to Sidney Crosby now. A guy, it's hard to believe and hard to put struggling and Crosby in the same sentence, but yet that's all you hear. It's not necessarily his fault that he's got to deal with certain different players with the mass amount of injuries that's plagued the Pittsburgh Penguins this season. But how much blame do you give Sidney Crosby for his lack of scoring? He hasn't scored in a while. And the stretches that have been blanked are quite long.
And that can drag out for a player like Sidney Crosby. He's kind of a crybaby. I'm going to say it like he is. I mean, he's in that role. He's wearing the C, isn't he? Or is it Malcolm? Yeah, it's Sidney. You know, he's surrounded by talent. It's up to him. He's got to perform. He's got to. I mean, no one's going to be at the top of their game for all season long, but, you know, we expect a lot from him. We do.
Yeah, you know, he's one of those players that doesn't come around too often, that he can be at the top. When he's at the top of the game, there's nobody better.
Right.
But now it's a matter of him, his slump that he's in, that it matter of him coming out of it. It's only December. You know, you have a number of months until the playoffs. number of months to get ready for the playoffs. So maybe this is the best time for him to be slumping, is in the month of December. And in the new year, or if not sooner, you'll see him. And you got to think that not just the injuries in Pittsburgh, he has a new head coach there, new systems, and sometimes it's a bit of an adjustment period for a guy too.
Okay, guys, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we have over-under next.